On to subtracting like fractions. So a lot like the lesson from Mrs. Smith for adding fractions, today we are going to be subtracting fractions that have denominators that are the same. And when your denominators are the same, all you need to do is subtract the numerators or subtract the top numbers. So for example, if I wrote down the fraction subtraction problem, 3/4 minus 1/4, right? So as usual, we're going to look at fractions as we have a starting point. We start with 3/4, and then we take away 1/4. And so if we look at our fraction strips, you want to find where we started with. So we started with 3/4. So as I'm counting over, 1, 2, 3, this section here represents 3/4, and we want to take away one of those fourths. So what do we have to do? Well, if we're starting with 3/4 and we have them recognized as this is our starting point, this is what we start with, 3/4, we want to take away one of those. And so all we need to do is think about it like this. Visually, we are taking it away. We're scratching it out. We're making it disappear. We're putting it in our tummies because we're eating 1/4 of whatever food item we have. And when we eat 1/4 of our 3/4 that we started with, we are left with 2/4. So that looks like on an algorithm, such as 3/4 minus 1/4 represented here, that is 3 minus 1. We are not changing how many parts we have. We have a total of 4 parts. We're starting with 3 out of 4 of those parts, and we're going to take away one of them. The denominator must remain the same, and we simply take away the numerator. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now, that's the easy part of this lesson, right? Remembering to simply, well, with adding fractions, you add the numerators, and here with subtracting fractions, we are going to take away from the numerators. We're going to take away 1 from 3, and we end up with 2/4. The difficult part is the direction of put your answer in simplest form. This is the greatest common factor. The reason why we learn problem number 4 in Mountain Math is that is greatest common factor, G, C, and F, greatest common factor, is so that we can put fractions that are not in simplest form into simplest form. The first clue, and a lot of what you'll see is a great starting point, is that if you have two even numbers, you have an even number for the numerator and you have an even number for the denominator, that fraction is likely not going to be, in fact, it will not be in simplest form. So, because we always have 2 as a common factor, it's not always going to be the greatest common factor, as you will see here when we lay out 2/4 and we lay out its factors. We have 1 and 2, and then we have 1, 2, and 4. We know that our common factors are 1 and 2 and 2 and 2. The largest of the common factors being 2. So what do we do with that? We divide 2/4. We divide the 2 in the numerator spot by 2, by the greatest common factor. We'll put a box around it because it is the greatest common factor. And we divide the numerator by 2. And when we do that, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. We get our answer 2/4 in simplest form. So we represent this as 2/4 or 1/2. Okay? All right. let's do a few practice problems here. Let's take a look at our independent practice page 581. And we will start on the back here. We'll start with our word problem number 15. We are taking a look at Kenji, and Kenji's dog ate 3/12 of the treat in a box of dog treats on Monday. So we're going to circle our numbers here. 3/12. His dog ate 2/12 of the treats on Tuesday. What fraction more of the box of treats did his dog eat on Monday than on Tuesday? So how much more did the dog eat on Monday than on Tuesday? We are comparing Monday to Tuesday, and if we're comparing something, we are trying to find the difference. And when we find the difference in mathematics, that is when we subtract. So what fraction more of the box of treats did the dog eat on Monday than on Tuesday? So the clue words here are Monday and Tuesday. All right, more. What fraction more of the box? Okay, so we're comparing the box of treats on Monday and on Tuesday. What we need to do is subtract Monday and Tuesday to compare them. So to set it up, we have 3/12 minus 2/12. And when we look visually at this problem, we can come down to our fraction strips tool and recognize that we started with, well, our first treat eating was on Monday. That's when we had 3/12. So that's our starting point. All right. And we want to compare that to Tuesday, which was 2. And if we want to find the difference, or we want to see how much more on Monday did the dog eat 3/12 than on Tuesday, which was 2/12, we need to subtract 3 minus 3/12 minus 2/12. We can get rid of 1/12 and get rid of 2/12, and we are left with 1/12. 3/12 minus 2/12, leaving the denominator the same, right? When we took away these 2/12, we didn't change the denominator. It's still 12. We end up with 1/12. So what does that mean for our answer? It means that on Monday, comma, a chronologically ordered word here, much like benchmark unit 7, we know that the dog ate 1/12 more than on Tuesday. That's me using the question and the answer and writing down what 1/12 or our answer actually means. Notice that you have a 1 as a numerator. If your 1 is a numerator, you know your fraction is in simplest form, whether it's 1/12 or 1/1000th. It is in simplest form. All right. So I'm going to flip this page over and just kind of go through some of these problems. Number 3, we have 7/8 minus 2/8. I know I'm going to keep my denominator the same, and I am going to subtract the numerator. 7 minus 2 is 5. 5 minus 4 is 1. Denominator stays the same. It's 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. My denominator stays the same. It's 10. 2 minus 1 is 1. Denominator stays the same. 1/3 and 1/3. 1/3 and 1/6 are both in simplest form. 5/8 and 3/10 are also in simplest form. 5 and 3 are both prime numbers. The only factors are 1 and itself, and neither 8 or 10 have a 5 or a 3 as a factor. So I'm confident that those are in simplest form. 4 minus 2, looking at number 7, is 2, with my denominator staying the same. Fifths. 4 6 minus 2 6. Well, 4 minus 2 is 2. 6 stays the same. Here, I have two even numbers as my numerator and denominator. I know that this fraction is not in simplest form. So I am going to list the factors quickly. I have 1 and 2. Here for 6, I have 1, 2, 3, and 6. I see my common factors are 1 and 2, and my greatest common factor is 2. I can now divide 2 divided by 2 and 6 divided by 2. When I divide 2 divided by 2, I get 1, and 6 divided by 2, I get 3. So in simplest form, my answer 2, 6 is actually 1/3. Okay, that is finishing what you started. Okay, do not leave your fractions unattended to when it comes to simplest form. Number 9, I have 9 minus 5 is 4, and my denominator stays the same. What do I do here? I notice I have two even numbers again. I have an even 4 and an even 12. I'm going to list the factors. I have 1, 2, and 4. And then for 12, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. 1 times 12 is 12, 2 times 6 is 12, and 3 times 4 is 12. Those are my factors. And now I can list out my common factors. I have 1, or circle my common factors. I have 2, and I also have 4. 4 is my greatest common factor, and I can now divide my answer 4/12 by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So again, you see that we have an answer, 4/12, two even numbers in the numerator and denominator, and I needed to put it in simplest form, my greatest common factor being 4, which I divided 4 divided by 4 and 12 divided by 4 to get to 1/3. If you are having a hard time listing the factors, that's when you need to get out your multiplication table. That multiplication table is there to help you when you are listing your factors. So my factors for 12 were 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. How do I do that? Well, I go through and I find all my 12s in my multiplication table, and I find a 12 here. Oh, 1 times 12 is that 12. That is two factors, 1 and 12, which I listed. I see another 12. Those factors are 2 and 6 to make that 12. Then I can come down, I see another 12. 3 times 4, so 3 and 4 are those factors. I have just now listed all the factors of 12. I mean, there's another 12, but that's your commutative property, right? So 12, you already have 1 times 12 or 1 and 12 as your factors. You do not need to list those twice. Okay, make use of this multiplication table. It will help you tremendously. All right, so all in all, subtracting fractions, no biggie. The tough part is remembering only subtract the numerator, leave the denominators the same, and put your answer into simplest form. Okay, all right, boys and girls, have fun with this lesson, and I will see you soon.